A fever dream.
Yeah, you know those weird fucked up dreams you have when you're sick with the flu?
Uh-huh.
That's what each one of these movies was like.
Oh, I love that description. I love
Where
that. That should
where
be
nothing makes sense, but you just got to see it through.
when the DVD box set is released. I wish that was the blurb they would use. It's kind of like a fever dream where nothing makes sense.
I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical in the mitten where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow. You a tadpole. Feel the love.
Welcome to Someone's Favorite Movie Podcast, the show where every movie is someone's favorite, and maybe along the way will become someone's favorite movie podcast.
You're already in my top 3, sir.
I love it. Now listen, dear listeners, when a cauldron of cynicism mixes with a barrel of sarcasm, you get the immaculate conception that is my co-host. His name is Tomko. Give him a round of applause.
Hey. Oh. I deserve the applause for this one, sir.
Absolutely.
Normally I don't brag about myself, but goddamn it, I deserve it for this episode.
My name is Randy. I come from the hybrid of insanity and comedy that is the Miserable Retail Slave Show. And when we come together, it's like rum and coke, me and this Tomko. We shall leave the best taste in your mouth. Yeah, exactly. Do you like a little rum and coke in your life there, Tomko?
I like a lot of rum and coke.
Me too. I was worried you're going to be like, oh, no.
No, it's got to be spiced rum.
Absolutely, it does. I was worried you were going to tell me that you were a gin and tonic man. I was going to be like, slow down and adjust your bow tie there, fancy pants, you know?
No. I'm not my grandfather yet.
That is a grandfatherly drink, isn't it?
That and the Tom Collins and the Manhattan.
I'm surprised you don't drink a Tom Collins because it's almost like your name.
I tried. Tastes like shit.
A Tom Collins. Ooh, that sounds bad.
That sounds awful.
Oh, forget I even said that.
That sounds like like bourbon mixed with a protein shake.
Have you ever tried that? That might be good.
You know what? I think we should do that for our St. Patrick's Day episode.
Okay.
We're going to get drunk. We're going to have to do it right.
Bourbon and a protein drink. Oh, boy. Do you even puke, bro? This, as you can tell, this show has no room for sophistication. I mean, we cover all the favorite B movies, grimy films, the bedazzled turds. You know, we look to find some of those delightful gems that might, I don't know, tickle our imaginations and our senses of wonder. But mostly, we just find a lot of bad stuff.
And honestly, I got to give you credit. This series, at least the first 2 installments, really capture the premise of this show, because the movies that we are about to discuss are genuinely liked by a large group of people, including at least one of our fellow podcasters.
This is true. Yeah, this week. I mean, you've already downloaded the episode. You already know. We're covering the entire Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise, and I fear that I've permanently fractured our friendship, Tomko. I'm surprised we're still on speaking terms.
Well, I did have to issue a public apology to Jake on our most recent episode, because I've tried to broaden his horizons when it comes to movies. I've tried to show him films such as Drive and Cool Hand Luke. Movies that I consider to be both, all time and modern day classics. And he was pissed at me for weeks for making him watch those movies. And I'm not pissed, but I can at least sympathize with my inner Jake on this one.
You shouldn't be pissed because I broaden your horizons. As a movie nerd, you should watch at least 2 of these. They should be in your repertoire of stuff you've seen.
You know what? I would agree with that. Yeah, at least so that I can maybe not join the conversations about these movies, but I can at least Well, I can't understand a lot of it, but I can at least. Well, no, I can't even appreciate it, but at least I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Tom, go watch 7.5 hours of steam mediocrity and hard-boiled bullshit just to entertain you fine folks. You passed the endurance test, sir. I now realize you are committed to this podcast. Congratulations, you won.
Oh, I was committed as soon as you said, "Hey, Tom, I got an idea."
Aha, I love that. Before we continue, I thought we would backtrack a little bit to a couple of movies that we covered recently because they've been in the news. For example, Black Christmas, which was our last episode, the remake came out and it was the drizzling shits at that box office.
Yes, that and it was just lambasted by critics and the few audience members who actually sat down to watch it.
Yeah, it only made opening weekend $4.4 million. I mean, it's gonna it's gonna probably break even because it only cost $5 million to make, and maybe show a little bit of.
I'm sure it'll show a profit when you factor in home media sales, television rights, and foreign markets. But still, from what I understand, it's just a god awful, preachy piece of shit.
I feel like it's going to be one of those things that really becomes a hit on those streaming services. Like it hits Netflix or whatever, and everybody will watch it. So I'm sure, it'll find some sort of audience or people will watch it. But I'm kind of surprised, not that it did so bad, but it made so few of those precious dollars because $4.4 million, that ain't nothing. And with the juggernaut known as Star Wars coming out this weekend, that sucker's done.
Yeah, and honestly, I was kind of surprised just because it's the Christmas season, and this was a movie that was aimed at somebody who wants to go to the theater but doesn't want to watch a schmaltzy family holiday movie. Usually those movies do a lot better than what this one did, but nope.
Not this
Swing and a
time.
miss.
Yeah. The other big, huge news, Tammy and the T-Rex, which we covered a few weeks ago, and I'm pleased as punch about this. It's going to hit Shudder at the beginning of next year. So finally a wide audience will be able to watch it on a streaming service, Tammy and the T-Rex. And I highly recommend you go back to the archives, listen to that episode, watch that movie, because it's fun.
It is. It is absolutely a fun, stupid, get drunk and have a good time sort of movie.
And, full confession, my sister for Christmas bought me the Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome. So
I might have to borrow it just so I can check out the special features.
I know, I'm excited.
I am dying to. Please tell me they have a commentary.
Oh, I don't know, but I hope so. See, that's the thing you miss, folks, when you only deal with streaming. You miss like the bonus features and the director's commentaries and stuff like that. Like when I first bought a DVD player, it was because I worshipped at the altar of Kevin Smith, and I had to get like all the deleted scenes for fucking Mallrats, and I literally sat there for multiple viewings just to hear the director's commentary, just to hear Kevin Smith talk about the dumb movie.
He is one of the better commentary tracks you're ever going to see.
Yeah, I feel like it should be an option on some of these streaming services, though.
Some of them do. I'm a big digital movie buyer, and a good chunk of them do have special features. A lot of them, especially on iTunes, do have commentary tracks.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think you can do that on like Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime. I don't think you can like...
No.
But you should be able to. You should be able to toggle an option that gives you additional audio or something. I would think. Why not?
Well, I mean, here's the difference. Back when DVD first came out, it was aimed pretty much at cinephiles. people who really care about the craft of how a movie is put together and all that stuff. These are not services that are aimed at movie geeks. They're aimed at a much wider audience. So I can understand why they don't. But you're right. For the movie geeks out there, it would be nice to have that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Movie geeks are still going to buy the Blu-rays and the DVDs. I do. For certain movies, I do. Anyways.
For certain movies, I will as well. But I've also been reading a lot of reports that Blu-ray does not have the shelf life that it was expected to. There are already several recently pressed titles that are getting disc rot. Are you familiar with that term?
I am, and that you just gave me a shudder to end all shudders. How am I going to sleep tonight knowing that all my discs are rotten?
They are. I mean, they were advertised at last, 100 and some odd years, and I just read the big thing was Pink Floyd put out a box set 3 years ago that had a price tag of $500, and all of the Blu-rays are already separating.
Christ.
Yes. So in other words, make ISO backups of all of your discs, folks.
What is this?
That constitutes fair use.
Yeah, it does. You just blew my mind, and I'm scared to even continue. I just want to hug all my Blu-rays now. Oh God. The other thing that I want to talk about real quick is Tomko did pass an endurance test. However, he didn't pass the ultimate endurance test.
Yes, I'm dying to talk about this.
So we were going to cover a movie called Elves, which came out in 1989 and has never been released on DVD or Blu-ray. Yes, there are some titles that have never been released on DVD or Blu-ray.
That's the seal of quality right there, sir.
It certainly is. So I heard about this Elves movie, and I'm like, well, this is a good thing for this little podcast here, and I don't know why I just did a John Wayne impression, but I did, so deal with it, folks. So this is a movie that I was like, this will be perfect, and I watched it, and I tapped out. I'm like, I can't put Tomko through this. I can't do it. This is just too bad. It's too weird.
How far did you make it? I got to know.
I watched the whole fucking thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't want to, but at the same time, I had to see how it ended. I just had to. It was my own personal test. You got to have goals
Randy
in life.
paid his penance, is what you're saying.
You got to have goals in life. I mean, I want to run a 5K. I want to run a half marathon this year. I feel like I already ran a 5K watching this movie. Jesus Christ. So Elves the big star of Elves is Dan Haggerty, who, if you don't know, was Grizzly Adams. If you don't know who Grizzly Adams is, he's a man with a great big beard, and he lived in a mountain, and it was a family sitcom. He'd be a sex symbol these days because all the girls love the big beards. But back when he had a big beard, he was just a scrubby-looking dude. Him and Hillbilly Jim were the only people allowed to have big beards. So,
yeah, there is a striking similarity between the two.
I know. Maybe they're the same person. Who could ever know? So,
God damn it! Now I want that tag team. I'm gonna have to make that a Grizzly Adams character on my PlayStation 4, like right after I get off the phone with you.
Okay, just make sure you upload it to Create a Wrestler so everyone can appreciate Grizzly Adams all across the world. And people can judge you and be like, "Who the fuck made Grizzly Adams?"
Gonna have like a deerskin belt. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. So the movie starts when a teenager named Kirsten and her friends go out into the woods to perform an anti-Christmas ritual because they hate the Christmas, apparently. She accidentally cuts her hand, and blood all over the ground. And obviously, it woken up an ancient elf demon, a Christmas elf at that.
It happens.
It happens. Well, you see, there's a reason, because her blood is very, very special. Because elves, actually, were the master race that Hitler dreamed about.
Huh?
Oh, yes. He thought he was going to conquer the world with elves. This is true, according to this movie. Not Aryans, elves. And the reason that Kirsten's blood revived this elf, is because her grandfather was a Nazi. And it turns out her grandfather's also her father, because inbreeding's the only way to have pure Aryan blood.
Wow, that's something.
It's something.
That movie might have been the end of the friendship, sir.
I know. This is why this is why I'm like, I can't put them through this. And so the video quality is what you would expect. If your mom and dad are, about 60 years old, have them put on an old home movie on the screen there. That's what the video quality looks like. Looks like an old home movie. The elf is a disgusting little puppet thing that doesn't look real or anything. It's a really, really bad movie. And the goal of the elf, you see, is to have sex with Kirsten because she's a pure Aryan. So this horny elf wants to make more little elves, and so they can conquer the world.
I wonder what came out first, this or Leprechaun? Because I'm genuinely curious as to which one was the ripoff.
I think this came out first. This was in 1989.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. So, long story short, Kirsten is able to run into the woods, grab an elf stone from her grandfather's house, an elf stone.
Gramps just happened to have one of those lying around.
Nazis have all sorts of things,
That's true.
Especially an elf stone. And this was able to kill the elf. And so the elf didn't get to have sex with Kirsten, except, the final scene of the movie is a little elf fetus. So somehow the elf had sex with her or something. I don't know. It's really bad. Really bad. And you dodged a bullet, sir.
How did that not become a holiday tradition alongside the Grinch and Charlie Brown? I'm baffled.
I'm not really sure, but, our Rankin and Bass are welcome to come out with a stop motion animation of that movie.
Oh, yes, that would be great. Claymation elf rape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just elves wanting all the coitus. That little dentist elf and Rudolph, he looked like he was a freak. I'm sure he was up for shenanigans. Anyways,
I gotta be honest with you. I really would love to see, or at least hear Tommy's reaction to this.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure there would be tears involved.
Yeah, I'm sure. Tommy doesn't watch movies. He won't watch anything I tell him to watch. So he's a big star. He ain't got no time for nobody. He's going for a tour of Iowa, and I might go with him. So that might be a fun little adventure.
Iowa?
Yeah, Iowa.
People do tours of Iowa? I thought they only surveyed out there.
They got Korn and Slipknot, so there's some sort of population.
Do they even have enough of a population to draw a crowd?
Somebody's got to plow those fields for all the corn.
Well, I guess you got a point.
There's got to be some people to piss off all the Slipknots. Santaphobia. Have you heard of this? It's the fear of Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got to witness it firsthand a couple times.
Yeah, ain't no kid ever want to get their picture taken with that Santa Claus.
No.
They love the idea of a Santa Claus, but you put them face to face with some Santa man and their eyes go wide and they freak the fuck out.
Well, they love the idea of free toys. They just don't want to know where it comes from.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you freak out? He sees you when you're sleeping and he knows when you've been bad or good. So this bearded old fuck can see right into your 6-year-old soul and know immediately about all the 6-year-old sins that you've committed, and thou shalt be punished. I mean, why wouldn't you freak out? It's only natural.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's basically the jolly head of the CIA from the sounds of it.
Exactly. Their entire Christmas bounty is dependent on this old man. If they waver from that straight and narrow, they get less loot, allegedly. None.
Hmm.
So it's only natural that horror movies, I think, would capitalize on that fear.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially because by that point, that I'm thinking we're heading, look at all the other holidays that have been covered. Everything from Halloween to Mother's Day to birthdays, even. Hell, there was even an April Fool's Day Halloween or horror movie.
Yes, there was. Yeah, called April Fool's Day.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So why not an entire subgenre of slashers called the Santa slasher? I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but it should be.
It should be.
I'm dubbing it now. That brings us to Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1984. This would be one of many Silent Nights. There was Silent Night, Bloody Night in 1972 with no Santa Slayer. Black Christmas, which we covered last week in the archives. Go download it and listen and love it. It had the working title of Silent Night, Evil Night.
Not quite the same ring.
No, I don't think so either. But this was Silent Night, Deadly Night. Trailer in the TV spot. The narrator says, "You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas."
And isn't that the way it is every year?
Yeah.
And do we want to talk about the history of this movie? Because this one in particular was pretty damn controversial.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about it. Definitely. It was very controversial. It was released on November 9th, 1984. November 9th is my birthday. So, yeah.
Well, you know what else was released that day, don't you?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
And this movie outperformed it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
In theaters, just to give you an idea of the state of cinema at that time, in theaters at that same time was The Terminator, Amadeus, Ghostbusters, Body Double, and The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. God bless the 80s.
Oh my God.
I know.
And you know what? I'll give them credit. They at least managed to make themselves seen in a crowd like that. That's a feat.
That is a feat. Obviously, The Terminator, which was released the week before, was the #1 movie. But Silent Night, Deadly Night was number 8, and Nightmare on Elm Street was number 10. I mean, history would remember them differently, but for a brief moment, it was a lot more popular.
How pissed do you think Wes Craven was at that?
He's like, I've written an amazing movie with a great concept, and some douche in a Santa outfit is stealing my thunder.
Can't say anything more than punish.
Yeah, naughty.
Naughty, yes.
Yeah, naughty and punish. So it was very controversial because the movie's promotions placed an emphasis on the killer being dressed as Santa. Like, people actually picketed outside movie theaters for some reason. They had signs that said, "Deck the halls with holly, not bodies." And Santa's not a hitman. I find.
Now, didn't they also put the commercials on, like, family prime time?
Yeah, but they during, like, Three's Company and stuff, I read.
Yeah.
Which, if you watch Three's Company, that shouldn't have been a family-friendly show anyways. It's very...
Well, come on, it was the 80s. I mean, you covered the Star Wars Holiday Special, and that was aimed at children.
Yes, there is a pornographic... Yeah, you're right.
So a little double innuendo ain't gonna harm no 80s kid.
Yeah. I hate the fact that people actually pick it as this movie for 3 reasons. Number 1, the fact that no one under 17 was allowed to see it, so what did it matter anyways? I mean, come on.
That is very true.
The producer Ira Barnick told People Magazine, yes, People Magazine, because everybody got involved in this. That's how much of a brouhaha this was. He said that people have taken offense at Santa being used in a scary context. Santa Claus is not a religious figure. He's a mythic character. I didn't deliberately run roughshod over that sensitivity. I didn't anticipate the objection to it. He said
come on.
Yeah. He said the premise, God forgive me, struck me as funny. I thought it could really work with that right balance of humor and fright. Our target audience is teenagers over 17 and young adults who go to these pictures like they go on roller coasters. They aren't looking for a believable story.
Okay, but he had to have known what he was doing.
You would think so. Number 2, the Billy character in the movie who plays he's the main character. That's the weird thing about Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 and 2. Usually these slasher movies focus on like a final girl, a group of friends that get picked off. These actually focus on the killer as the main character right off the bat.
Yeah, I'll give them that. Okay, score one for them.
I suppose. The Billy.
I said begrudgingly.
Yeah, the Billy character in the movie that dresses up like Santa and starts killing people. He doesn't look like Santa whatsoever. He's played by a man named Robert Brian Wilson, who was young, tall, and had muscles. He was not old, short, and full of blubber. And the white beard that he had was like dangling around his neck. It wasn't even on his face, so you could see his full shaven face.
Lazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, he had the weirdest neck beard you would ever see, but he wasn't wearing the beard. Number 3, this wasn't the first time that Santa was a killer. Have we forgotten the 1979 hit song, Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer? I mean, cold-blooded killer that Santa is.
That is true. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's just a cheap movie made to turn a quick buck. They used the controversy in order to get free publicity. But I do think that people got they were clutching their pearls over nothing, ultimately.
Absolutely. Scott Schneid, who's a producer on the movie, actually bought the original script for the movie that was completely thrown out. So they got this script from some kid, and they took like 3 lines from it and bought it. And the 3 lines was, or 3 words was "a killer Santa." That was it. He said it was pretty awful, but there was a 1-line sentence in that script which was about a killer Santa Claus. It was called "He Sees You When You're Sleeping." It was terrible, but I loved the 1-line idea. I thought this could be a potential for a teenage franchise. A psycho dressed in a Santa Claus suit on the loose. Oh my
God, I want to read that original script.
I kind of do too, actually.
Because if they thought that was unfilmable and they produced this, how bad was that script?
Right.
Was it written in crayon or something?
It must have been. So this wouldn't be the first Santa Claus killer. That would be Tales from the Crypt 1972 in the segment called "And All Through the House," which you did watch, right, Tomko?
I watched and greatly enjoyed.
Wasn't it great?
It was a great Tales from the Crypt type of story.
Yeah, I mean, I think this had to have been a direct influence on Silent Night, Deadly Night. So in this segment, a woman played by Joan Collins murders her husband on Christmas Eve. She's trying to claim a large life insurance settlement, I believe it is. She's going to frame it like he fell down the stairs, but meanwhile, there's a breaking news bulletin on the radio that announces a psychopath is broken out of a mental asylum. He might be wearing a Santa costume, and of course, that Santa tries to break into the house to punish Joan Collins because she did something naughty. And she can't call 911 because she's got to position the body just so, because she just murdered her husband. So it's quite the pickle she's in. And in the very end, her daughter lets a psycho Santa in because it's Christmas Eve and she's so excited to see Santa.
I thought it was one of those great comeuppance tales where the ultimate bad guy got what was coming to them. I just hope that the little girl was okay.
I think so. I think that was the whole point. Like, he was going to punish the naughty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But you can actually blame the comics for this because the story this was based on was originally published in The Vault of Horror number 35 from 1954. So blame comics for the Santa slasher subgenre.
Wortham had a point, maybe.
Maybe he did. I'm sure there's like a whole treasure trove of weird ideas in those old horror comics. There's gotta be.
Oh, God, yeah. I would love for DC, who owns all of those original series, If they want to do just like some kind of omnibus or absolute edition, that would be a godsend.
Yeah, I'm sure there's also sorts of weird, wacky shit.
Mhm.
The segment you watched was also adapted into a full length episode of the Tales from the Crypt series in 1989, season 1, episode 2, and that episode was written by Shane Decker, who wrote The Monster Squad, and it was directed by Robert Zemeckis.
I remember watching that when it first came out, and it was creepy as a kid, and it's corny in a fun, campy sort of way as an adult.
Yeah. After this, in 1980, the first full-length Santa slasher was To All a Good Night, which I watched because I am nothing if not dutiful to all you loyal listeners. And it's about a sorority house that is being stalked by a killer in a Santa mask and outfit. And yes, the killer does wield an axe at one point. It came out in January 30th, 1980. And what blew me away is the fact that there's a more than a passing similarity between the killer's identity and motive to that of a movie that came out a few months later called Friday the 13th. You may have heard of that one.
Yeah, the name rings a bell.
Yeah. Which obviously, Friday the 13th didn't rip off To All a Good Night. It's just parallel thinking, I suppose. Because
yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's called isn't it something about the zeitgeist? They're both tapping into it at the same time.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
They were tapping the hell out of that geist or whatever Tom goes say. Later that year, a movie called Christmas Evil came out, and this is the movie I should have made you watch because this is an interesting movie. This features another Santa slasher, but see, I've read things that describe it as like the Taxi Driver of Santa slashers.
Oh my God!
Yeah. However, it reminded me when I watched it. It reminded me so much of this year's Joker movie. Is what it really reminded me of, and it's about a guy who, as a young boy, saw mommy kissing Santa Claus, except Daddy was kissing, or Santa Claus was kissing mommy in her no-no spot in the middle of the living room. And that,
oh, really?
That'll scar a small boy, I guess.
That's going to be an awkward trip to the mall Santa next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So that left a scar on him permanently. However, he works at a toy factory, and he has like a mental break because he's just beat down by his job, and he goes home and punches shit and screams.
We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. So one day he just snaps and decides to glue a beard on him and become Santa Claus and punish the naughty people. He goes to rich parties and stabs people, and he's very nice to the kids because he feels like the true meaning of Christmas was lost. It's a really interesting movie. You should watch it.
That does sound actually kind of interesting.
I love the taglines of these movies back then because the tagline in this movie first came Halloween, of course, then Friday the 13th, and now this Christmas, you better believe in Santa or he'll slay you.
Damn.
Yeah.
That'd get my attention at the box office.
I think so. Back to Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes. Yes, let's dive into this, sir.
Siskel and Ebert both hated this movie, believe it or not.
I think they actually went so far as to condemn it.
They did condemn it. They listed this movie and I Spit on Your Grave as the most contemptible movies they've ever seen.
Which is odd because, I mean, say what you will about the graphic nature of I Spit on Your Grave, but it actually has a message.
I've not seen I Spit on Your Grave. Isn't it a revenge movie, though?
It very much is, and it's very much a pro-woman movie in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We'll have to cover it one of these days. I'd be curious to see what your reaction would be, especially to one particular scene.
Okay. There's actually a couple revenge movies that I was thinking about covering, but they're like super graphic. There's one in particular that influenced Kill Bill that I have on DVD, and it's like there's some X-rated scenes in it, and it's really disgusting. And I'm like, how did this get made? But anyway,
Oh, geez.
I digress. So, this movie actually features original songs that were written for this movie. An entire Christmas album was written strictly for this movie, and it was going to be released with the movie, but it was canceled because controversy, of course.
That is interesting. I think it's pretty cool that they had that much faith in it.
Yeah, you can hear at the very beginning. There's a song called "Santa's Watching," which is playing as young Billy and his family are driving, and then there's that montage later in Billy's life when he's working at a toy store called "The Warm Side of the Door." One of those beautiful '80s montages that is showing him doing a real great job. That's also a thing. This movie, though, let's get into it. I appreciate the fact they took the time and effort to actually establish Billy as a character.
Yeah. As opposed to like Michael Myers, who's just a blank slate, or Jason Voorhees, who's even less defined.
Yeah, there's no... I mean, even Freddy Krueger, there's no real motivation other than he's a dream demon. Jason's a zombie, basically. I mean, even Michael Myers is a zombie.
Essentially, yeah. Especially toward the end of that series, absolutely.
Yeah. This movie, they actually try. Billy goes to his parents, or goes with his parents and his younger brother, Ricky, who will become very important. They go to a mental facility to visit Grandpa. This scene was actually frightening to me. Grandpa's supposed to be comatose, and the family leaves Billy alone with this old man. And the old man snaps awake and starts talking to Billy and tells Billy that he should be scared because Christmas Eve is the scariest damn night of the year. And he tells Billy Santa only brings presents to the people that have been good all year, and the naughty ones he punishes. And he tells Billy that if he sees Santa, then Billy should run for his life.
And, I'm probably letting everybody in on a little bit too much on my inner workings, but I couldn't help but be reminded of my uncles during this scene. Because uncles, at least back in my day, loved scaring the hell out of, their nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And this seems like something that they would have done.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, I still remember them convincing me that McDonald's made their hamburgers out of horses, so this seems like it'd be up their alley.
Who's to say they don't? Has that ever been proven otherwise?
Fair enough.
Sure enough, Billy and Mom and Dad take off. When the family comes back, Grandpa's comatose again. They take off again. And they're forced to stop because of Santa. A man in a Santa suit, his car's broken down in the middle of the road, and Mom and Dad's like, "Oh, it's Santa, huh?" Little do they know this Santa just finished killing a man and robbing a convenience store. So Santa straight up walks to the driver's side door, shoots Dad, rips Mom out of the car, or rips her shirt. You think he's gonna rape her, slits her throat while she tries to fight back, and Billy just bails out of the car. I was watching the whole thing. Poor baby brother Ricky's in the back seat. He didn't even care about Ricky. He just left that guy.
He was hauling ass to save ass.
Yep. It's kind of like a Batman origin story, except with Santa. And Billy doesn't actually declare vengeance on criminals or Santa Clauses. He just gets more and more fucked up. He goes to an orphanage, and that's even worse because the woman that runs it, Mother Superior,
just an absolute horrible, horrible woman.
Yeah, she punishes him. Obviously, this kid is trouble because he's drawing pictures of Santas with knives and decapitated reindeer. Billy, he hears this noise or whatever and peeks through a keyhole and sees these two teens having sex, and that gives him flashbacks of his mom's death Ricky's also at the home, by the way. So Mother Superior is always telling him stuff like, when we do something naughty, we're always caught and then we're punished. Punishment is necessary. Punishment is good. So he's being brainwashed over and over again.
And I have to admit, at this point in the movie, I'm not bailing. It's not great, but it's not god-awful yet.
No, I agree. I was fully invested at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they know that Santa's a trigger for this kid. For example, they bring a Santa into the orphanage, and young Billy hauls off and punches the dude right in the face.
Yeah, this is where I'm starting to lose it, because how stupid are these people? I mean, I'll overlook the fact that apparently in this continuity, the world has no idea what therapy is.
Yeah, exactly.
But they know this kid watched his father get shot by a guy dressed as Santa. His mother was almost raped and had her throat slit by a guy dressed as Santa. Maybe separate him from the other kids. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Maybe let him just have an advent calendar instead of a trip to Santa.
Well, God's light didn't shine the brightest on these nuns because they were stupid. Because
they were incredibly stupid.
They do something even dumber. When he's a grown-ass man, they decide to help him get a job. And where do they help him get a job? A fucking toy store.
Yeah, exactly.
The one place that he's guaranteed to deal with Christmas and potentially Santa Claus. A toy store. You couldn't have put him at a hardware store, a fucking car wash, a landfill, who knows? A toy store.
And not only that, but maybe they should have had a conversation with the manager about exactly who it was they were staffing the store with.
Yeah, they should have. I mean, hey, kind of cool it with all the Santa talk around this man.
Let just keep him in the back room during December.
Yeah, he's got a couple light bulbs burn out there in this strand of Christmas lights. You see,
exactly.
But instead, the clueless manager drafts Billy to become the store Santa Claus when their normal Santa breaks an ankle. So he's already been shown to be damaged. Like earlier in the movie, he was having sex dreams about his coworker, Pamela, and they're interrupted by Santa showing up. Again, have you heard of therapy ever, people?
Exactly. And also, Santa broke his ankle. Big deal. Santa sits.
Yeah, he's just sitting there. That's all. He didn't.
Exactly. I mean, he's not walking down Main Street in the parade.
He didn't break his lap. That's all you need.
Exactly.
So at the store Christmas party on Christmas Eve, the staff are celebrating a successful holiday season by getting plastered. Billy's never drank alcohol before. And he sees Pam sneak off into the back room. This is the girl of his dreams. And she's sneaking off with the scurvy, sleazy coworker that he hates that works there. And then the drunk manager walks up to Santa Billy and tells him that he better sober up because he remembers what Santa does on Christmas Eve, right? And Billy just snaps and says, I remember. And Mr. Sims, the manager, says, go get him, Santa. That's all it takes for Billy to start naughty and punish. And the rampage begins.
And this is when the movie completely goes off the rails.
It does go off the rails pretty quickly. He just goes on a ramp. It turns into a normal slasher movie. He just starts killing everybody. Whether they're actually naughty and deserve to be punished doesn't seem to matter. He just starts going to town on people, strangling people with Christmas lights. Horror movie scream queen Linnea Quigley gets impaled on a mounted deer head, which is fun.
And I'll give him credit. That was actually a pretty good practical effect.
Yeah, I thought
possibly the highlight of the movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think when people remember this movie, that's the kill they remember.
Mm-hmm.
She was actually kind of a big deal in the 80s and early 90s and all the B movies she was in. She actually had her own movie called Linnea Quigley's Horror Workout, which sounds awful. But
oh, God, we're going to end up covering that, aren't we?
Probably. I mean, so the movie all culminates in Billy going back to murder Mother Superior because she's the baddest one of them all. You know, when the marketing mascot of Christmas collides with the religion of Christmas, it doesn't bode well for old Santa.
Now, here's what I'm trying to figure out. Santa comes on Christmas Eve. He judges you on Christmas Eve. That wasn't Christmas Eve that he showed up. It was Christmas Day.
It was Christmas Day, yeah.
So the movie isn't even following its own logic.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I didn't even catch that. Where were you back in the 80s when this was getting made? With your superior thumb pointing down.
I know where I was, and I'm pretty sure little 7-year-old Tom would have told him that this script was fucking bullshit too.
Probably. So Billy makes it to Mother Superior, and she's chanting at Billy that there's no Santa Claus, pretty much ruining Christmas for all the kids in the orphanage surrounding her forever. And then he's shot and killed, further traumatizing an entire group of kids.
No, not only that, that was the second Santa of the day to be shot and killed in front of these children.
Yes, they witnessed two Santas being... the cops straight up shot a Santa in the back thinking it was Billy, and nobody seemed to give a fuck.
Yeah. I don't think he issued a warning shot. I don't think he even told him to stop. He just shot him and then continued to stay at the scene like nothing happened.
Yeah. No big deal.
No. It happens every day.
So they found out there's no Santa for real. They saw two Santas get killed in front of them. And with his final breath, Billy says, "You're safe now. Santa Claus is gone." However, the axe that Billy was carrying to kill Mother Superior lands right at Ricky's feet, and he glares at Mother Superior and says, "Naughty." And that's how the movie ends.
I know that this movie is beloved by a lot of people, and I'm sure that there are a ton of people out there who count it in their list of yearly holiday movies. You know what? I watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, the Riff Tracks edition every year, so I'm not judging you for liking this movie, but what a piece of shit.
I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it either. It was just kind of there for me. I'm not sure I'll ever revisit it.
It's just insultingly stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it has all kinds of continuity errors. I know that I'm looking at this through the lenses of, a 2019 point of view, but I don't really think the way that they handled rape was great and just kind of brush it off like no big thing. Especially the second rape scene where the victim was defending the perpetrator. It's just it is a tasteless movie. It reminds me of a line from a Kevin Smith Q&A session where somebody described Chasing Amy as dumb but ultimately harmless. This is a dumb movie, but I don't think it deserved the controversy it generated.
No, I agree with that. I don't see what was so controversial about it at all. And that's interesting you bring that up, because when Billy's coworker goes to the back to make out with the sleazeball that Billy hated, yeah, he forces himself on her, and Billy goes back there to confront him, and she kind of defends him for some reason, which makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. I mean, not to mention the fact that the manager and the other shopkeeper can't hear not one but two murders going on in the other room, but they hear, what was it, like some boxes rustling in the background, and that's what draws them in.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, it's just a stupid, but ultimately harmless movie.
That brings us to Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 in 1987. Tomko, you ever been to a high school talent show or maybe, I don't know, a karaoke night at the bar, and you'll see a lot of bad performances, a few good, possibly great performances, but also if you're lucky, you'll see one or two performances that are so out there in the best/worst way possible, you'll remember them long after you've forgotten those best performances.
I have, and that's a pretty apt description. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 for me. This might be a movie that I watch again just because it's so ridiculously stupid and fun. And it deserves the reputation that it has. A lot of longtime fans call it Garbage Day. They give it that affectionate subtitle. I mean, it describes the movie perfectly and references, well, this infamous scene that I'm about to play.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
Garbage Day! Heavy sigh.
You know, they say that The Room is the worst movie ever made.
Yes.
Tommy Wiseau didn't go to film school. Tommy Wiseau had no idea what he was doing when he was writing and directing that movie. Tommy Wiseau did this on his own.
I'm not even sure English is Tommy Wiseau's first language, to be honest.
The producers, writers, and directors of these films all had credits. They managed to convince a group of investors that, yes, this is a good idea. They should have known what they were doing. They didn't have a fucking clue.
You are correct.
This might very well be the worst movie I've ever seen.
Wow. How about that, people?
And that is not hyperbole. This is a terrible, terrible movie. You can enjoy it ironically, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot to enjoy ironically.
But this has no redeeming value other than laughing at it, not with it.
Yeah, laughing at it is exactly right. Just out of curiosity, did Mrs. Tomko watch this movie?
Oh, God, no, thank God.
Oh, man.
No, you'd have heard about that.
I'm sure.
You would have probably heard the screaming from the next county over.
I'm sure. So, despite being pulled from the theaters rather quickly, the first Silent Night, Deadly Night actually made money at the box office. So, an attempt to cash in quickly was made. So, a director named Lee Harry was hired because he was a good editor. Because the producers wanted the first movie re-edited into something new so that they could market it as a sequel without putting any effort in whatsoever.
And boy, does it show.
Yeah. So this is why they're 45 minutes out of... Okay, so the original movie's an hour and a half long. They took 45 minutes from that hour and a half, put it back into this movie, and this movie's only 88 minutes long. So you could actually skip the first movie and watch this one and get both of them at the same time. However, Lee Harry convinced the studio, oh, no, let me make a new movie. Let me film some new footage to mix up with that. So the studio gave him 10 days and $250,000. And said,
this cost $200,000. This was $250,000.
Somehow.
The fuck? I've seen movies made on VHS camcorders that look better than this.
Oh, your outrage sustains me. So Eric Freeman stars as Ricky Caldwell, the little brother of Billy. Eric Freeman seems to be sort of like an animatronic creature because his eyebrows move around precariously as if independent from his body with every line he delivers.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering whether the actor's name was Pino.
So About Eric Freeman.
Okay. Educate me, sir.
He described the set in an interview with Dread Central as chaotic, saying the only interaction he got was from the writer of his scenes, Joseph Earl, who would yell things like more and crazier to guide his performance. He said from what he remembers, the writer had taken a liking to another actor who was up for the role because he was impressed by the fact that the other guy seemed to be legitimately crazy. So the screenwriter would bring this up on set constantly and would direct Freeman in such a way as to elicit a little bit of over-the-top craziness from him. Yeah.
Okay. So how would you describe the... And I know I'm on, radio, but I'm using finger quotes. How would you describe the plot of this movie?
So basically, Ricky is Billy's younger brother, and he's in a mental institution. He went on some killing spree, that much is obvious. A psychologist is brought in to analyze him, and this is how they managed to show 45 minutes of the original movie. But we still get these precious framing devices specifically for this movie, and they're bananas in the best way possible, I think, because every line he delivers is in the oddest way possible. I love it too. Somehow he remembers, despite being a small baby child, the murder of his mom and dad. Like he was an infant. Somehow he remembers, and I think the rationale was because I was there. That's what he says. Fair enough. And Ricky actually blames Mother Superior for Billy's behavior. Because Billy was just punishing the naughty. So this is an influence for Ricky, his trigger isn't Santa Claus per se. It's the color red, because he's just a bull ready to charge or something. I don't know. So anytime he sees the color red, he just goes off.
What does he do during sunset?
He punches the air, I guess. So after the events of the first movie, Ricky is put with a foster family, the Rosenbergs. And he says they definitely didn't get involved with Christmas. And I laughed at that.
Great. Now you're racist, movie. Congratulations.
Yeah. Ricky enjoyed his life with his new family until stepdad died. And then after the funeral, he was taking a somber, stoic walk in the woods. And I don't know what it is about this franchise, but it's very rapey. He sees a man forcing himself on a woman in the woods. And Ricky dubs the man naughty and runs him over with a Jeep.
Several times.
Yeah. When life gives you lemons, run a motherfucker over with a Jeep. That's what my father always said.
God damn it. That's a bumper sticker if I ever saw one.
Yeah. After that, his life is kind of spiraling down. He says his mom can't afford to send him to college. So I got a job. And he says it in the worst way possible. I just honestly, you have to see the movie for the line deliveries that he gives. It's just, my jaw was open the whole time. Like, what is going on here?
I want to see the outtakes.
Oh my Lord.
Because you know that he had to say those lines several times, and the ones that made it to screen, those are the best.
Yeah.
I want to see the ones that weren't good enough.
Yeah. At this new job that he's working at, he hears an argument in an alley, which leads to the umbrella scene. He kills a man with an umbrella. He sticks it through the body and opens it on the other side, and it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your life.
I can't remember. Did he twirl it?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because that would have been a lost opportunity.
I don't know if he... All I know is he I don't know. It's so bad. After this, he meets a girl named Jennifer because she ran into him when he was on his fucking motorcycle. Like, he's backing up, and she literally runs into his motorcycle. I don't know. Okay. But she's super hot because you can tell that because saxophones come on when she's on screen. They immediately have sex, and that was Ricky's first time. But
think about this. Before you hear one word from her, you're already seeing her nude.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's something that's borderline offensive. That Ricky was a virgin. That was his first time. He thought it was Jennifer's first time, too. And it wasn't. And that's basically what sets off his rampage.
Now, real quick, you're skipping over something that really, really stuck out in my mind. They go to a movie theater and they're watching a movie about a killer Santa. And it's the scene at the beginning of the first movie with they're showing the man that killed his parents.
Yes.
Think about, and it's the exact same shots, the exact same actors, everything. Think about what that implies. There was a film crew on the scene of that murder, and they did nothing. They just made a movie out of it.
Yeah, do you know what the movie was called? Did you write it down? Because I certainly did.
No, what was it?
Chaos, the motion picture.
Oh, God. They didn't even try.
No, they didn't. They didn't. Ricky goes to beat up some guy who made fun of him in the theater, and some weasel named Chip shows up, and that was Jennifer's ex, apparently. And one day when Ricky and Jennifer are going for a walk, they come across Chip in his broken down car, and he finds out they had a prior relationship. So as you do, you hook a battery cable up to Chip's tongue, and his eyes explode out of his head, and then he strangles his girlfriend with a car antenna.
I'm pretty sure it wouldn't even work.
I don't think so either. And then he goes on a random rampage for no reason whatsoever. Like, no reason. A cop appears out of nowhere, who he immediately kills. He shoots some random citizen and calls him a motherfucker for no reason. And then some citizen is just taking out his trash. And Ricky says, "Garbage day," and shoots him too. How dare you, sir? That man was just trying to clean up his yard.
Wow.
My favorite thing, though, and I watched this like 3 times. At one point, a car is driving towards him, and he shoots the car.
Yep.
And the car flips on its side and goes past him. I swear that car actually plowed into the stuntman. It
looked pretty close.
It's very.
I love the fact that, I don't know, maybe they weren't counting on people watching this movie 30 years later on giant high definition televisions, but it clearly didn't look anything like the main actor.
No, not at all. But literally, the stunt, because I watched it 3 times, the stuntman had his arm out and he had to tuck his arm in. And if he didn't tuck his arm in, it would have gotten taken off by that car. That's how close it was.
Are you saying that a high-budget production like this didn't have adequate safety precautions?
Believe it or not. And I will say that Ricky shoots the driver, and for some reason the car just spontaneously combusts because he shoots
Yes. Honestly, I'm wondering whether or not the writer of this movie, and I already said this on my show, I genuinely want to know if the writer had like some kind of massive head trauma prior to sitting down to the typewriter.
It's not high art, that's for sure. So, Ricky's all of a sudden laughing the whole time, and his eyebrows are going ape shit constantly. Yeah, like, okay. He ends up escaping the mental institution by strangling the doctor with his own recording tape. He somehow escapes from the institution, kills a Salvation Army bell ringer, puts on his Santa uniform and says, "Merry Christmas, Santa's back." And he goes to see Mother Superior, who it said had a stroke, but it looks like someone threw acid in her face because she looks like Two-Face. That's not how strokes work.
No.
Her entire face was a mess, and that's not how strokes work. Also, her address was 666. That's very funny, guys.
Now, here's another thing I'm trying to figure out about this movie. The first movie took place in a winter setting. Snow everywhere. In fact, I think the name of the orphanage was wasn't it like Utah Orphanage or something like that?
Yeah, they were in Utah.
This movie implies that they're at least relatively close to the original orphanage, but there are palm trees in the background.
Yeah, it looks like they're in California or something. Yeah. It makes no sense. None whatsoever. I mean...
And I'm also trying to figure out how Mother Superior, if she's wheelchair bound, and I'm not making light of anybody with handicaps, how did she get upstairs?
Garbage day. So, of course, Ricky ends up killing Mother Superior, but he's shot 1,000 times. And the very last scene of the movie is him looking at the camera and smiling. And you're like, oh my God, he's going to be back.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're interested, Tomko, there is both a Billy action figure and a Ricky action figure in mid-garbage day pose face. So...
Oh, God.
I know.
I don't get it. I just don't get the appeal of these movies. I mean, seriously, I think I would rather make sweet love to a running blender than watch these again.
Oh, I love that. That's an image I'll never get out of my head. Wow. That brings us to Silent Night 3, Better Watch Out.
You know, the worst thing I can say about this is that it's dumb and goofy, but ultimately boring and completely forgettable.
Yes, it's a lot more competently made. However, it's boring as hell.
It is. I was shocked to see Bill Moseley in this, and I was saddened to see... Is it Robert Culp?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was saddened to see that his career had fallen on such hard times. But I couldn't help but laugh every time Bill Moseley was moving, and you just saw the liquid that was surrounding his open brain swirling around.
Yeah. Yeah. So this movie was directed by Monty Hellman, who was a kind of a... he did a lot of cult movies. He was brought in to direct it as a favor to one of his friends, a producer on the film. And he agreed to direct it as long as the screenplay that was already written was thrown out and a new one was written.
Again, I want to see that original screenplay.
So the new screenplay was written in a week. And I think this is the theme throughout all these movies past the first one in why they're so bad. Like rush jobs. That's all they were. Like nobody gave a crap. So this movie, the main character is named Laura Anderson. She's a blind girl, and she was in a plane crash. She lost her sight. She lost her parents, but oh boy, she's a clairvoyant now.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that they were ripping off the Nightmare on Elm Street series with this one.
That's where I thought they were going, because she's got a psychic connection with Ricky, who is in a coma because he got shot in the head, which he didn't. He clearly, in the second movie, got shot in the torso numerous times, never in the head, but he was saved, given experimental brain surgery, because that's what you do to a psychopath, I guess. Do everything to save him, and he's got a glass dome over his exposed brain now. But she's got a psychic link to him, and I thought, oh, that's what they're going to do. They're going to rip off Nightmare on Elm Street. He's going to be like a Freddy guy that's in her dreams and stalk her in her dreams. Instead, all they do is turn him into Jason. He's just...
Yeah, and of all the people that they could have gotten... Bill Moseley, I mean, he was already in Texas Chainsaw 2 by this point, wasn't
he? Yeah, this was after that. Yep, he was Chop Top in Texas 2.
So they could have easily written the role around that actor very easily, and I think it would have been a much better movie if they'd have let him be his animated self. Instead, he's mostly mute. He moves very slowly, very zombie-like. and it's just a waste of potential.
Oh, absolutely, it is. This movie was so boring. I actually wish that Eric Freeman was back as Ricky, because then at least I would be...
That kept your attention.
Yeah, exactly. This one, I was like, okay, just get on with it. The main character, Laura, she's played by Samantha Scully. This is like her only movie ever, but she's like super hot. Like she had a movie star quality, I thought, to her. But I don't know. I guess being in a movie like this will do it to you. However, her brother in this movie, his girlfriend was played by what's her name? Laura Herring, who was a former Miss USA in 1985.
Oh my God.
The first Hispanic woman to be crowned Miss USA. But she was also a countess. She married a count. And she'd go on to be in Mulholland Drive and Little Nicky and The Punisher. And a bunch of movies, actually.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. I need to give Mulholland Drive another go.
I've never watched it. I just can't get into most David Lynch movies.
No, you can't?
Yeah, when he purposely makes them not make sense. He says they're supposed to be dreams. Just not my thing.
Yeah, this one very much doesn't make sense, Mulholland Drive. At least what it did when I was like 20 or whatever when I saw it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Ricky's a Jason Voorhees zombie. He's now, since Laura touched his brain, they've got a connection, and all he wants to do is stalk her and kill her, apparently. Meanwhile, Laura and her brother and his girl,
who's got like the most amazing head of hair I've seen in quite some time.
He's got such a mane, and he's got the hot girlfriend who looks suspiciously kind of like his sister. I'm like, what are you doing, guy? And his sister can't stand the girlfriend, and I thought that was fun. And
yeah, it just kind of
they're going
ended.
Yeah, they're going to Grandma's house for the holidays, and somehow, you've got 3 adults in a car. You've got a lumbering zombie with an exposed brain. Somehow they get the zombie with the exposed brain got to Grandma's house before them in their vehicle. I don't know how, but he got there first, killed Grandma.
Managed to fool Grandma with a hat.
That's all it takes.
Didn't he just wear a hat over his dome brain?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. There's not really much else to talk about in this movie. It's kind of a big blah. Finally, they go back to the people make it to Grandma's house, and Grandma actually speaks to Laura beyond the grave, thanks to Laura's fancy powers, tells Laura to embrace her powers and use them to do good. So this was like her secret origin story. Brother Chris, who I thought was dead, gets killed by Ricky, comes back from the dead and shoots Ricky with a shotgun, and that doesn't work, and he kills Brother Chris. And then Ricky runs at Laura and falls on a stake, and that kills him. He's dead.
Yeah. I don't know.
Makes no sense. He got shot point blank with a shotgun, and he was fine.
Yeah, that should have taken his chest pretty much out.
He falls on a stake, and that was it. That's all it took. He dead. He gone.
Not only that, but I can't believe that they didn't do it. They didn't kill him by having his brain destroyed.
That was a missed opportunity for sure. And then there's actually they try to be funny or clever or whatever, and it shows Ricky saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year or something at the very end. He's wearing a tuxedo with his dome head and his brain exposed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just, say what you will about the first 2 movies, they weren't mediocre. They were full balls to the wall bad. This is just kind of rightfully forgotten, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's very boring.
It is, yeah.
Which leads us to the mess that is Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation, which was released as Bugs in the UK.
And you know what? This, I think, if they had polished it a little bit more, could have had potential. I think it would have made a really good episode for an anthology series, like Friday the 13th TV series, if you remember that, or a Tales from the Crypt episode. I think it had potential, but they just kind of, again, I'm guessing they rushed it.
They did rush it. The poster tagline for this one, and if I die before I wake, thank you, which I love. So yes, a script had been written for this movie, which included the return of Ricky Caldwell, but that one was thrown out when director Brian Usna came on board. So he wrote this movie with producer Richard Gladstein, who went on to produce many of Tarantino's movies, including Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you got to make your bones somehow.
Usna was interviewed about this with Dread at Dread Central, the website, and he said, "I know it's not a very watchable movie, but it's one of the most ambitious films that I've ever made." And that he kind of...
I mean, it had potential.
Yeah. It did have potential, but I don't know. It kind of makes no sense.
But they
whatsoever.
squandered every little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Immediately, what was obvious to me was how polished this one looked. Just looks wise, it was the best looking one up to this point.
Easily.
It almost looked like it was going to be a competent sort of production, and then it just immediately went haywire, I think. It's a movie that features big bugs, Clint Howard as a rapist, lesbian innuendo, and flaming legs. What more could you want?
Honestly, I think the best part about it was the little chalk outline of the lady that jumped off the building, where half of it is the traditional chalk outline, the other is just a scorch mark on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentionally funny, but I got a chuckle out of it.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I thought it was hilarious. So this movie, a reporter named Kim, who works at the classifieds at a paper, she wants to do more reporting and whatnot, but her shitty editor won't let her. And her gatekeeper boyfriend will not help her out or advance her in any way. He's like a star reporter for the paper. So she decides to go ahead and investigate the falling flaming woman anyways. And so she starts her own investigation and goes to this bookstore where the woman fell off the roof of this bookstore. And the bookstore's owner kind of takes a liking to her a little bit. Meanwhile, Clint Howard's like hovering around as this weirdo, and he's pulling bugs from vents in the roof, and for no reason.
Honestly, I think that this might be Clint Howard at the height of his Clint powers, because this is almost like the role that he was meant to play.
Yeah, I can agree with that. He's very scuzzy in this movie, and I think that suits him.
Yeah.
Not that I know him personally, but he looks like a scuzz.
Yeah, that's the teeth and the hair and the eyes, and yeah, he looks like somebody that would hang out at the alley behind the bowling alley.
So bugs start appearing in Kim's life everywhere. I don't know. She starts seeing big bugs everywhere. She goes to a party with the bookstore owner, and I don't know, she like passes out and the bookstore owner kisses her or something in the park. And then she goes to another party and she drinks some tea that's drugged. She wakes up surrounded by all these women. They perform a ritual where they slice a live rat over her and then insert...
Yet another rape scene too.
Yeah. Well, in this one, they insert a giant larva into her vagina and she pukes out a roach. And then Ricky slices the roach in half, and its innards fly all over her face. And the bug guts on the face looks exactly like a money shot. It was disgusting. I'm like, that wasn't subtle whatsoever. Like, I know people are into some shit, but that's never happened to me at a party whatsoever. Yeah. And then later on in the movie, she gets drugged again, and she's surrounded by the women who are in this like feminist cult.
Yep.
And Ricky is wearing a mask, which is basically a dick on his face, and he rapes Kim while the female cult cheers him on. So this made no sense to me. Why a cult that's all about girl power and feminism would want this to happen? I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that they were trying to do like a modern day witchcraft story. Uh, I could see where they were trying to go, but they just got lost on their way, I think, because they didn't bother polishing it.
No. So Kim, her arms and legs start to turn insect-like. She like,
And I gotta give them credit. Those were, for a movie like this, decent effects.
yeah. The special effects in this are pretty great. I don't know. So, turns out that something about fire and whatever, and I don't know.
You gotta kill a little boy in order to, quench your.
Yeah. So
honestly, you could skip this one.
you could skip this one easily. Yeah, something about if you don't do something, kill somebody or something, you get set on fire or turn into, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the little boy was to be her final initiation ritual, and if she had stopped it, it would have, the fire would have consumed her. I don't know.
Yeah. If it sounds like a mess when we're trying to describe it, it's because it was a mess. Like, I actually took notes and they don't even make any sense. Like, I looked at them afterwards. I'm like, that doesn't. What?
Yeah, it's a rough watch. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, if they had cut it down to an hour, if they had maybe gone for another couple drafts on the script, I think it would have made a good anthology television show episode. But as it is, yeah, it's pretty much unwatchable.
Yeah. Which leads us to Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toymaker, which actually reminded me of like a Tales from the Crypt episode.
It did. I felt bad in this movie. I genuinely felt bad for Mickey Rooney.
Yes, this does star Mickey Rooney, who actually wrote a letter of protest against the first movie, which was included in the Shout Factory Blu-ray release of it. And it said, "How dare they? I'm all for the First Amendment, but don't give me Santa Claus with a gun going to kill someone. The scum who made that movie should be run out of town." And how ironic, in 1991, he's in the 5th installment of the franchise.
How sad, honestly.
Very
because
sad.
People don't probably know who the hell Mickey Rooney is this day and age, but your great grandparents' age, your grandparents' age, he was a huge star. And I know somebody who met him in real life, and I guess he was one of the nicest people in the world. And I guess he was just really, really, really bad with money.
I think I read something, he was in something like 300 movies or something like that. Something crazy.
Well, yeah, the guy was always working, but you could tell, especially toward the end, that it wasn't for love of the craft.
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder if, during the making of this movie, if he was kind of wondering whether or not Judy Garland was the lucky one.
Ooh. So in this movie, Mickey Rooney stars as a man named Joe Petto. And his son is Pino.
Yeah.
And if you don't get where this is going already, shame on you.
Yeah. Can I just say fuck you movie for giving away the twist in the opening credits?
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I'm not sure I would ever take my kid to a toy store named Petto's Toy Store. Cause,
I was debating whether or not to mention that.
That was the first thing that stuck in my mind. I'm like, really?
Yeah, mine too. But it's like, I don't know if I want to even approach that subject during the Christmas season. But yeah, that stuck out to me too.
I realize you guys were trying to be super clever with your Pinocchio and Geppetto reference, but maybe name the I don't know, toy store or something
name it
else.
Joe's?
Yeah, Joe's Toys or something. Whatever. So this movie actually has to do with Christmas again, where the initiation really didn't. It took place around Christmas, and honestly, the only connection it had to the previous movies was at one point Ricky breaks into Kim's apartment and is watching.
Oh yeah, he was the Killer Santa movie. Yeah,
yeah, he was watching Laura's dream sequence from the previous movie. So
I don't even know what to say about this movie because there's really no suspense to it. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. The characters are not developed at all. It might. I think it was the rightful final nail in this franchise.
Yeah. So it starts off with Christmas being a traumatizing event for the little boy. He watches his dad opening up some mysterious present, and the present latches onto his face, and Dad falls on a fireplace poker and dies, and then the kid becomes a mute and doesn't speak anymore.
And still has that toy on his shelf.
Yeah, it seems like you tossed that thing as far away as you possibly could.
Yeah.
Kim and Lonnie from the previous movie are in this one. And she actually makes a reference to the previous movie. Like, she says something like, "You would not believe the things that I've been through." Something like that. And I was like, oh, it's good to see you because I like your face. Not sure about your character. Don't care about that Lonnie kid. But hey, a familiar face.
That Lonnie kid was like the ultimate 90s kid, wasn't he?
The ultimate 90s kid.
Starter jacket, backward hat, drawstring pants, rollerblades.
He was a Vanilla Ice fan. I could just tell.
Oh, yeah. You know that he sang Turtle Power.
Yep. Ricky from the previous movie is also in this one as a mall Santa. Clint Howard is Ricky, which is funny to me because in the previous movie he gets eaten alive by bugs. So I don't know how that's possible. Whatever. Who cares, right? So
if the producers, writers, and directors didn't care, I don't think we can be blamed for not really having that much interest in the details here.
That's what really kills me. It was the same writer and director and producer of the last movie. 4 and 5 is the same people. Like, okay, you could have tried, I guess. I'm sure you already guessed the plot twist. Joe, the Toymaker, created a son who is Pinocchio because his wife and unborn child were killed in a car accident. Joe's a drunk. He creates a boy named Pinocchio.
So would his full name be Pinopetto?
Yeah, that's what it would be. Yeah.
That's disturbing on a whole new level.
Yes, I believe so. There's also a subplot where the dude that died years ago was not Derek's actual dad, but some random that he thought was his dad, so everything can be okay.
Yeah, and the way that they revealed that was beyond stupid. Mom is concerned about her kid. She bumps into her ex-boyfriend in a parking garage, and rather than go home to him, she bangs that guy, finds out that, yeah, that's, the kid's actual father.
Yeah.
And he says that he wants to be a part of his son's life, but still wants to bang Mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, the son is home getting terrorized by killer toys, and his babysitter's getting slaughtered by flying army men and whatnot. No big deal. Who cares?
And again, that's another thing that didn't really make sense. You visibly see a little toy tank blow what had to have been like a 50-cent piece sized hole in her chest. She gets up, walks away from it like no problem.
Yeah, she was fine. No problem.
But her boyfriend gets killed by, what was it, like some kind of weird little toy that he could have easily pulled off of himself?
Yeah, he gets, they were like little army men or something, weren't they? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have stepped on him, or I don't know, got up and walked out the room.
Exactly. Or like I said, literally just grabbed it and brushed it aside.
Yeah. So Pino is wanting to insert himself into Sarah, the mother's life, because they live in the house that Joe used to live in, I guess. I don't know.
Mm.
So he wants to become Sarah's new boy, and he wants to get rid of Derek. And so he kidnaps Derek. Instead of just killing him, he kidnaps him.
Would have been more efficient, yeah.
Yeah, and Sarah finds out that Pino is indeed a robot boy, and whenever Joe gets drunk, he breaks Pino, and Joe has to rebuild him all the time, which is kind of sad. And then Pino goes on to say that he wants Sarah to be his mother, and then tries to rape her, because this series is very rapey. However, he ain't got those parts. So
I was going to say, of all the rape scenes in this series, and there are many, many rape scenes in this series, this is probably the ickiest.
yeah, because he's smooth like a Ken doll, and he just kind of bumps his pelvis area against her, and calling her mommy and stuff the whole time. I'm like, okay, guys, all right,
Yeah, that I think was a bit too far. Not that this series is known for tasteful plots, but still.
yeah. So in the end, the Pinocchio boy is killed, and whatever.
Was I the only one confused at his hairline in this end sequence? Because the entire film up to this point, he has normal hair for anybody in the early 90s. But as soon as it's revealed he's a robot, his hair is plastic.
Yeah, I thought maybe that was because the scene before that he was wearing a creepy Mickey Rooney face, but I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
They didn't explain it.
No, not at all. So this was. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Silent Night, Deadly Night, probably the worst horror franchise there is. I've not seen them all, and we're not movie critics, but I wouldn't be too far off in saying that.
I want to think of one that's worse, but goddamn if I can't.
Yeah. There was a remake in 2012 called Silent Night, and I didn't make Tom go watch it because I didn't know about it, but I did watch it.
Was it just called Silent Night?
It was just called Silent Night, yeah.
They were too lazy to even spell out the full name?
I guess. Maybe they were trying to put a little distance between it or whatever. I don't know. Honestly, it could have been Silent Night, Deadly Night 6, because it's more of a sequel than a reboot, really. Malcolm McDowell is in this one because he'll be in anything, apparently, these days.
Oh, man.
There are two scenes that are repeated from the original movie, the creepy grandpa scene. However, it's one of the victims that's being warned to beware of Santa, not the killer, who goes on to be the killer, that is. And a woman does get impaled on a mounted deer head on the wall. That happens. And it's not even done as well as the original. I don't know what happened there. Other than that, it's a pretty slick movie. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't that bad. The look of this Santa is a lot better and much more frightening. The killer wears a plastic Santa mask with where the eyes should be. They're kind of blackened out a lot more, so it looks like they're hollowed out. Gives it a creepy vibe. There's an extra gimmick. Before killing each victim, he sends them a gift, the gift of coal.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, kind of fun. His secret origin is revealed at the very, very end of the movie. The hero of the movie is this lady cop, and she sets him on fire, but he escapes. But his secret origin is revealed the final scenes of the movie. His father burned his mother alive with a fucking flamethrower, and then he was gunned down by the cops. And the killer, who was just a boy at the time, witnesses the whole thing, vows to get revenge. So he dresses up as Santa so that he can blend in with the town's annual Christmas festivities, which includes a parade of Santas. So that's how he's going to get his revenge. So I feel like that's a much more rational idea, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, the bar was set so high when it came to the logic of those first two movies. I think they may have somehow crossed that.
Yeah. So what would your final ranking be on these movies? Would you recommend any of them?
I don't know. I mean, if you want to watch again, if you want to laugh at a movie instead of with a movie, maybe the first two. Though I can't imagine ever wanting to watch them again. The final three, I'm already forgetting plot points.
Yeah.
I just watched these movies.
Yeah. I think my order of preference would be the second one, just because it's insane and crazy. The first one, God, and then probably the third one, I guess. Well, yeah, the third one, fifth one, fourth one. I don't know.
Honestly, they're all just one big pile of nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're forgettable. They're not outrageous. They're not so over the top badly made. There's nothing about them that sticks out. They just feel like generic straight to video movies that should have been forgotten if they didn't have the titles that they did.
Yeah. And honestly, you could watch the second one, get all the craziness, and get most of the plot of the first one too at the same time. So maybe do that.
Oh, and miss out on all that fine-tuned nuance. And the other thing about that first movie is that was a major studio release. Wasn't that TriStar that put that movie out?
It was indeed, yeah.
And that was a big studio in the early 80s.
Yeah, it was. And that's what they came up with.
I can't believe that. That just blows my mind. But hey, you know what? For the folks that like them, God bless you. This is just my opinion. I'm glad you have fun with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. So coming up in the new year, this 2020, in January, I figure, we might as well give folks a heads up. Maybe they.
I was gonna say, I don't think I know what you have planned for January.
No, you don't. So this is new for you too. So I was thinking, well, I'll give them a heads up so they can maybe seek out the movies before we talk about them and watch them, and then listen to us, and yeah, fun.
Compare notes.
Yeah.
And you know what? Send your thoughts in on those movies. I want to hear what other people think about them.
So in January, we're going to cover Roar, the most dangerous movie ever made.
Ooh.
Yes. It's about a man who lives on a wildlife preserve of big cats.
Oh my God. I've wanted to see that movie.
Yeah. And none of the cats are trained. And it's insane.
Oh my God. I'm genuinely excited for this one.
I actually recorded an episode of this with Tommy doing that movie, and he couldn't finish the movie because it was too intense for him. He freaked out. So that and audio issues made that episode a loss. So redoing it. Roar, the most dangerous movie ever made. Star Crash, a late 70s Star Wars-esque disaster.
Oh.
Starring David Hasselhoff.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm really excited about this. We got our first ever request to cover a movie from the You're Hearing Things podcast. They requested we cover Fateful Findings by a filmmaker named Neil Breen. Now, Dan from Netflix and Swill mentioned this guy to me too, and apparently he's notorious for the movies he makes. So we'll see about that. And also in January, another killer Santa movie. It's called Dial Code Santa Claus. This is a French film that more than likely inspired the creation of a movie called Home Alone. We'll see. Yeah. Plus in January, Tommy and I, we recorded episodes about a movie called Electric Dreams, which is about a love triangle between a man, a woman, and the man's computer. And yeah. And Never Too Young to Die, which I talked about a while ago, but I still haven't released it. About John Stamos as a secret agent fighting Gene Simmons as a transvestite terrorist. So that's fun.
Oh my God, that's That just sounds like a masculine-filled mess.
Oh, I've seen it a few times. It's amazing. In February, we're going to do My Bloody Valentine, of course. Classic.
You gotta.
Early 80s. And a movie called Unmasked Part 25, which is a late 80s horror parody movie.
Okay, you have my attention.
And if you are wondering who the 80s horror character it's parodying might be, the main character's name is Jackson, and he wears a hockey mask. I don't know how to spell it out anymore for you, but we would love it if we could get more requests in for movies to cover, so send us an email at someone's favorite movie podcast at gmail.com with your favorite underappreciated gem and why you love it, and we might cover it on the program here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to more requests.
Yeah, that should be fun. Tell the people where they can find you, Mr. Tomko, as my voice is failing me.
Well, you can find me each and every week on a stupid little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. We talk about everything from comic books, movies, television shows, to Muppets and everything in between. As far as how to get a hold of me on Twitter, you can reach me at The Drunken Dork, and probably the best way to get me on Facebook is at a little group called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group.
And you can find me on the Twitter at mretailslave. I do a big dumb comedy show with my co-host Tommy. And we haven't done anything in a while, which will hopefully change soon. But there's 7.5 years of back catalog you can plow through, so do that. Okay.
Well worth it. Well worth it.
Why, thank you, sir. So thank you to everybody that's listened to us thus far. We seem to be retaining our audience, which is good. That's what you want. But we'd like to increase it. So if you like this program, go ahead and suggest to a friend that also loves movies. Be like, hey, check these guys out. We would appreciate it. We'll see you in 2020. We'll see you next year.
Happy Christmas, folks.
Bye.